flow individual who is trying to get some cash pay client acquisition going for your practice. We're excited to chat with you today. Attilio and I are the founders of Therapy Flow. We've been working with private practice owners for a number of years now, just helping you grow in a number of different capacities. And we're really excited to hop into sort of the blueprint, the framework, whatever we want to call it, to get cash pay clients flowing. To welcome in, we've got some heavy hitting sort of tips, methodologies. The true thing today that we're going to be doing is really setting the frame. What is the order? What's the steps? What's the sort of hierarchy importance? What's some of the marketing inputs? And we'll get all into it here in just a second.
Yeah, I would consider this as like the essence. I think we're going to hit 4 or 5 like really big topics here. And this is like literally like what Josh was saying, this is the framework here. So number 1, I think we can't get started.
Well, I'm going to cut you off before we get to number 1. Yep. The pre-frame before we hit number 1 is just to say, if you have chosen to launch a cash pay practice, you've chosen to do something incredible, right? It's not necessarily easy. It's a little bit going against the grain. So some of the things that we talk about today are going to help you facilitate the difficulty that you have chosen to build an all cash pay practice and fill all cash pay providers. What we emphasize, what we push into, and some of the sort of secret sauce that goes into filling a cash pay practice. The very first practice that we ever worked with, the group practice, was an all cash pay practice that we helped scale over to $1 million annually. To this day, they get about 1 new cash pay client on a daily basis from the marketing that we originally helped them build and set up. And so when you do these things flawlessly, the rest of the client acquisition and the rest of the business, frankly, flows. So without further ado, Attilio, let's get into number 1.
All right, number 1, guys, is going to be, who are our clients, right? What is the client avatar? The activity that we take inside of our program is, it's a client avatar worksheet, really. And that's, we can't sell, we can't market, we can't sell to anyone unless we know who they are.
Yeah. Can you expand a little bit more on that, Attilio? What goes in, especially if you're a group practice and you have multiple modalities, you have multiple processes, you know, whatever, like how do you come up with a client avatar to market from or to dig into, especially with a plurality of individuals?
Yeah, great question. When it comes down to it, the businesses under 7 figures really can be massively successful by focusing on 1 to 3 avatars is really how we see it. And so even if you have a big plurality, just choose like 1 to 3 that are maybe 80% of your clientele. And you can really circle these around pains or solutions. And so oftentimes it doesn't really matter the how. So how do you help them? Oftentimes the marketing just really cares about and is effective when you're speaking to pains, problems that people are feeling, how you might be able to get them 1 step closer to the result that they're having or that they're looking for. And then the how and the minutia of like what actually gets done or what is the perfect therapist for this person actually is a lot less of a factor in the marketing of it.
Yeah. And I just add that part of the reason why this is important, because when you get into the different places that you market, having a big amalgamish mesh sort of is the best way to put it of people, individuals, issues, processes that aren't really clear. It's really hard to call out the value in a specific service or the problem to enough of a specificity to get traction with your marketing. And I'm talking in your website, in paid ads, in your SEO, whatever it is. If you fragment and you do 50 different things, which you probably do, right? But you try and communicate about all of them all at the same time, you are going to have too much to get that person to the finish line on whatever asset you're building. And that's why knowing who you speak to and how you want to speak to them and rooting your marketing in this first is so central to guide the rest of these steps that we're going to walk you through in a second.
Ready? Go on to number 2.
Let's do it.
Sweet. Number 2, guys, is our care plan. So this is different than your treatment plan. Okay, your treatment plan is the clinical side of things. A care plan is uh, really, it's the thing that informs your brand, your marketing, your sales, your support, and a lot of your business decisions. So your treatment plan is like what you do, but your care plan is how you do it, what you say, how you explain it, how do you justify, and what you really do to maximize your client's likelihood of getting the results they want with you.
And
And
I was on a call with a counselor or with a group of our counselors in one of our calls last week. And the way we help distinguish this is what you are doing is you're maybe having a client show up for a 45-minute session once a week. That is what you are doing. But how are you actually conducting that session inside of it? Like, what are the specific things that you're doing inside of it that you as the counselor, you or someone on your team is providing, right? Are you asking questions? Are you helping manage something? Are you digging in? Are you doing a specific whatever? Like, what is going on inside of that session that is sort of the happenings, so to speak, in it that you can pull from to dictate how you communicate to clients, how they're going to get the results.
yeah, this care plan, I think a lot of therapists look to their education and what happens in the session, but you're doing a massive disservice if you're not looking at every point of contact that your practice has with the individual. That means what's happening inside of your marketing, what's happening inside of your sales process, what happens in your sessions, what happens outside of sessions. So I was on a conversation this morning with a clinician who didn't know what their care plan was, and we went through, talked through it all, and she was like, "Yeah, I get them in a client portal so that they can talk to me. It gets their paperwork done." And I was like, "Hold up, hold up, hold up." So you have a client portal where people can get ongoing support outside of their sessions, and that's not the point that you're looking at. Like, people want support, people want to know that they're going to get the result, and we need to focus on every element of our practice that is there to serve as a result generating activity.
Yeah. So take someone that has depression or anxiety. What you're going to be doing with them is providing therapy. But how you're doing that is, oh, we help you overcome your depression or anxiety by providing ongoing communication through your client portal, by pairing you with an incredibly licensed clinician with X, Y, and Z experience following, fill in the blank, by sitting in a session with you and asking these types of questions, by helping you regulate these types of things. And you're not going to communicate all of this, but you're going to pull some really central parts of the care plan out of this client sort of journey that helps them get the results, and communicate this in your marketing, in your sales calls, in your web assets, wherever it is that you can communicate. And this is what builds the trust in the client's eyes that they're going to get the results and that what you're selling is valuable enough to justify whatever rate that you guys are charging.
Ready to move on?
Yeah.
Number 3, guys, we've got volume. And we're not talking about audio volume, we're talking about volume of people that you're talking to.
Yeah.
This is, I think it's common knowledge, industry wide, I'd consider that people don't want cash pay. It's not convenient. It's got certain, caveats to it. It is a higher rate. A lot of people pay
Yep.
already for their insurance, and so why cash pay?
Yeah.
And so I think there was a study that said only about 10% of people, 10 to 20% of people actually want to cash pay.
Yeah. There's no magic market out there that's like raising their hand saying, I am a cash pay person. No potential client designates themselves at that. They are a therapy seeker. That's how they designate themselves. They are a therapy seeker for whatever issue that they're currently having. They just happen to have insurance, or they just happen to not have insurance coverage, or they just happen to be wanting to find a therapist that fits their needs. And that's the most important part. So there's not this magic market you can tap into with the correct marketing that just advertises to cash pay individuals. That's not how it works, which is why volume is so important, because we know you have to generate more inquiries than the insurance practice down the road to get the same amount of clients. And the day that we accept that, the day that we can accept that as a win condition, right? Like if I'm going to win as a cash pay therapist, one of the biggest things I just have to do is generate more inquiries at a volume that makes sense for the rate that I want to charge.
Yeah, the way that we've seen it with with the private practices in our program, guys, is typically it's 4 to 5 times the amount of leads that an
Yeah.
insurance practice would have to generate.
So an
So
insurance practice will typically have a 60 to 70% conversion rate. A cash pay practice will have anywhere from probably like a 6 to 20% conversion rate on inquiries coming in. So that means is every 10 inquiries that contact you, if you take insurance, probably 6 or 7 of them would become a client versus like 1 to 3 of them, if you're lucky, become a client. And we're okay with those numbers, which means we have to generate more inquiries.
yeah, and like Josh said, the faster that we can come to peace with it, I think the faster we can just move on and know that a lot of people will opt in, and we can provide a lot of value to those individuals too. We can create great relationships, and we can talk to them over time, because maybe it's not today that they work with us, but maybe it's tomorrow or next month or a year down the
Yeah.
road. And so both paths work really well, but we have to get the volume. And so speaking of volume, where do we get that volume from?
Yeah, how do you generate that that volume? So unfortunately, we don't have any new answers for you. We are about to list all of the marketing trends to gain volume that you've heard. We'll put a couple caveats. So to just kind of list them out, you need a paid ads channel. I just did an interview with one of the therapists who went through our program. They went from 0 to 5 therapists as an all cash pay group practice, 0 to almost 40K in about a 3-month time frame. Once they really started ramping up, they had one paid channel, which was primarily Google ads, but we also see Facebook and Instagram ads working really well. So kind of choose your stick there. Then they had an organic channel. They worked really heavily on their website, their SEO, and then their kind of like networking referral partners, right? That was just all organic for them. They invested a lot of time in that bucket. Again, all things you've probably heard before. And then they had tons of listing sites, well optimized listing sites hanging fruit. Now, there are other ways to get volume. We've seen practice owners do it through social media. We've seen practice owners do it through a podcast. We've seen practice owners do it through like physical mail imprint mailers to their community or hospital, relationships, right? All of the different things that you hear about to market your practice are the ways that you get clients. Like we don't have a new answer here, but we have 2 things. Number one is paid ads is typically one of the best ways that we've seen practice owners achieve volume, spending anywhere from $800 to $4,000, $800 to $10,000 a month on the paid ads to facilitate a multi-6, multi-7-figure group practice. And that's pretty reasonable because you have so much control over that. Anything to add there to enrich that, Attilio?
Yeah, as far as paid ads go, it's kind of choose your own adventure, right? So you get to pick what problems you have. Both platforms are bad in their own sense. So if you don't like making media, maybe Facebook and Instagram ads aren't your way. But if you hate working on your website, maybe Google ads isn't the path. But paid ads is a great path, especially if you're looking for short-term gains and short-term wins. And really, like what you were saying, just the sustainable, controlled strategy that you own and you can operate and launch at your discretion. You mentioned it a second ago too. There's not a great way to like just plug into a cash pay market. Guys, it doesn't matter about income. It doesn't matter, like income targeting is options on both of our ad platforms, but we've almost never seen that correlate to great cash practices running successfully, the ones who are targeting income. And so don't get hung up on targeting. Don't get hung up too much on some of the angles that the platforms or some of the features that the platforms give you. Simple is better, and we just know that paid tends to work.
Yep. 100%. And the last thing that I'd say, in order for hitting that volume piece of things, you're probably underestimating how much either cash, if you're running ads, and or effort on a time level is actually needed to invest. So you might think that networking with 100 doctors in your area is an astronomical amount. The win condition for networking might be in like the 500 to 1500 range across a 3 to 12 month time frame. And same with the ads. You might think that, wow, spending $300 a month on ads is like a lot of money to risk, but the win condition is spending 600 to 1500. And so there's actually volume, not just to generate the inquiries, but we see a lot of times the volume to commit to the action. Oh, I'll blog once a month, or I'll blog a couple times a year, or I'll work on my SEO here or there, right? We see like 4 to 6 blogs a month being like the minimum rate to start to make progress. So one of the biggest like critiques / recommendations I would have for you is it's not a difference of the marketing channels. We listed all the same things you've probably heard before, but the biggest advice people get to us when they start working with us is the true, honest answer for how much work, how much money, how much volume you need to do within that platform. We don't tell you to get on 3 listing sites. We tell you to get on like 7 to 12 potentially. And so part of the solution here as a cash pay practice is just you have to do more in order to generate that volume.
Yeah, that's a great segue into my last my last channels, I guess, category here is
Yeah.
we talked about paid here. We talked about some directories. There's this angle with like organic traffic, which sometimes it's SEO, sometimes it's podcasts. We've seen some people do social media. It's this path where it doesn't require necessarily dollars and cents where you're renting the space, but it requires your time and energy to create content and create value for an audience. And I think this path is so powerful. It's a longer term play, right? It's a longer term play, but it's a very compounding play. And the nice thing about this organic path is this is the path for you to sustainably get referral partners. And so the interesting thing about organic is because as private practices, we can't really incentivize referral partners, which makes it really hard to maybe create referral partners through incentives or through some other offers. And so what do you have to offer? Well, oftentimes it can be your organic platform. And so if you take the time to build an organic platform, you have an offer to give to a referral partner. And so if you're looking for referral partners, or if you've tried sending emails out to family doctors, or you've tried, blasting to the hospital and you just have never found good success with that path, it's probably because you didn't have a platform to stand on to offer them something good enough to build up that volume in a way that was relatively possible for you to find success.
Yeah.
So, guys, the path to a referral partner, the thing that you guys really, really want, it's a little bit of a longer, arduous road, but it does exist. And it typically stands on the other end of building up or standing up a longer term organic strategy.
Yeah. And to just give 2 super practical, but still in the realm of digital, like business building suggestions, this could be like you having a monthly or weekly newsletter that you send out. And as you grow that list and process, well, one of your offers in order to generate more referrals or get access to that person's community, client list, whatever it is, or just have it, is offer them to have essentially an advertising spot or a shout out or an interview or something to your audience in order to get the cross promotion traffic. Or on the flip side, you could have a podcast. You could build an audience on social media, right? And similar philosophy. Have something where you can feature that person, proposition that person, have them share their value, their process, audience share. And there's a lot of different ways you can do this. There are in-person strategies with as well and community building and such. But that's what Attilio is referring to in terms of building a process where you actually have something to offer referral partners in your area.
I'll end this one with one quick caveat, guys. We just listed out a million things.
Yeah.
The way that we break it down for everyone is choose one directory strategy. Maybe you're on, like Josh was saying, 7 to 12. I like the number 5. Get on directories and do something that you're affecting the directories as much as you can. Have a paid channel that you've committed to and you're figuring it out. You've decided that that's the path you're going to take to crack the code on getting out of the rat race for appointments. And then finally, If you have the time, energy, resources, then prop up your organic channel. Okay,
Yeah,
because it does take time, energy, and resources. And so
definitely.
top two is directories and paids because you get short-term wins there. Longer term strategy is the organic strategy. And then finally, you can start moving into some bigger stuff as you transcend all of this.
For sure. And this brings us to our last point, right, Attilio? It's our last one.
Yes, our last one.
And that is sales. Well, sales has nothing to do with marketing, or I don't need to do sales. We're a therapy practice, or X, Y, and Z. We have discovered, after working with literally hundreds of cash pay practices, that your ability to communicate the value of your services to your potential ideal clients in an effective, straightforward, direct manner while asking for the yes in a professional way, following best business sales practices, is one of the biggest determinations on whether you're going to be successful as a cash pay practice. And we save this point for last, but it's also in sequential order in some ways, saying that, okay, we've done the work, we know who we're talking to, we know how we're trying to talk to them, we've generated a lot of conversations, we're having the conversations, great, now how do we get the yes? And a lot of people find sales icky and gross, and they don't want to pay attention to it, and they don't want to train their sales staff on it. But unfortunately, when money is on the line, you're asking someone to spend anywhere from $400 to potentially $2,000 or more a month with you for these therapeutic services. If you're cash pay out of pocket, potentially, that requires a lot of trust. That requires them to have a lot of logical and emotional awareness that they are going to get something of value from working with you or one of your team members. And this is all a sales problem, not a marketing problem. And we just have to segment the two a little bit. Sales is all of the content that someone experiences before, during, and after a call. Your website is meant to sell someone on your services, not educate them on what therapy is, right? Your consultation call is, yes, sort of to see if you're a good fit, because that's important for a sales process, but is to communicate really directly what the value is and how you can, if you are a good fit, going to help them find success, whatever they define that is and you define that is, through your therapeutic process. So we talk a lot about, a couple quick tips. You need a sales script. You need a consistent way to handle what we call sales objections, like I want to use my insurance sales objection. And you need, and this is the most important part, a definitive point in your sales calls where you tell the person whether you want to work with them or not and whether you can help them or not. If you drive into a tire shop and you're saying, hey, I want to buy some tires, they're not going to be like, well, do you want to buy some tires? I don't know. And be super vague about it. They're going to say, yes, we can sell you tires for your car. We support that model. You actually need to do the same thing as a therapist. At some point towards the end of the call, say, hey, Mrs. Jones, based off everything that you told me, I can definitely help you work through, fix, start, find growth, facilitate, regulate, whatever words you want to use, your situation. And I or one of our therapists on our team would love to work with you on that. Here's what next steps would look like. Is that something you want to do? That moment is one of the most defining moments. And if you get anything out of this video, that is the number one thing you probably need to be doing on your sales calls to make the biggest difference, is just telling clients you can help them and you want to work with them. There's a lot of other sales best practices that we could go through. We have a lot of other content and other platforms that you can explore if you're watching this video on that topic, but we can't underline this component of the process for being a successful cash pay practice enough. It's so important if you want to see the growth and success at a volume and at a rate that makes sense for your practice. And the more you charge, the more important this bucket of growth becomes.
Yeah, I think I might. I mean, yes, you're right. There's other sales best practices that are super strong. And like, I think dialing in on sales best practices, especially if you guys are larger practices who have intake coordinators or administrative assistants, like there's some sales best practices that just need to be met for larger practices that just create consistency and really improve the process. I want to talk really quick about the fatal flaw that we see most practices take on this. And to me, the fatal flaw in this is really just relying too much on marketing.
Yeah.
Like you're relying so much on the initial point of contact, the initial opt-in, the initial website. You're trying to force so much purchasing activity to happen in the marketing that you end up totally missing the point of marketing. And so what ends up happening is you have less total inquiries, you have less people in your list, and your sales process gets super watered down. You almost never have practice. And then you really don't have enough at bats to sell your cash pay services. So many times when you overload your marketing, like you're trying to get out of not having sales conversations by overloading your marketing, what ends up happening is you just disqualify people who probably could have worked with you if you just sat
Yeah.
down on a conversation with them.
Yep.
And so that would be my fatal flaw, is you're putting way too much emphasis on marketing and not enough on sales. They're two, it's like an airplane, they're airplane engines. They both need to be firing on good, full cylinders to be pulling the plane forward.
Yeah.
And so stop trying to overload your marketing.
And the numbers that I use on that, if you're doing this well as a cash pay practice, and your marketing is running well, what this will actually look like is 1 to 2 people are pretty much going to say yes when they contact you, no matter what. You could pretty much say anything on the phone and they'll probably move forward with you. Okay, great, right? We just kind of have to take the order. And then 1 to 3 people on the other end, it doesn't matter what you do, they're probably going to say no. Like you could have been the best salesperson in the world, they still probably just would have said no. And then lastly, you have that middle section, that 3 to 5, maybe even 3 to 6 people. And those are the people that your sales process actually has control over whether they move forward with you or not. And what some practice owners fail to understand, and this is where my business was at some point, is with my marketing, I was trying to create more people. I was like, man, why aren't these other 8 people just ready to buy? And I thought it was a marketing problem. But what I didn't understand is that those 1 or 2 people will be ready to buy. My marketing did their job, but the rest of my marketing was just to generate those 6 to 7 other opportunities that could say yes through my sales process. So look at what you can control and when you can control it. And when you can control those 6 to 7 people in that middle bucket is in the sales content and the sales call, the consultation, and so forth.
Yeah. I think we touched on everything.
Final comments here, guys. As you are building a cash pay practice, cash pay group practice, these lessons hold true and you revisit them. There's what's called upcycling, which means at any given time, right, we could give these parts of a marketing sales process a grade. And it could look like the volume of inquiries and sales we're getting from them, bluntly, of like, well, is it or is it not producing? But also just like our content, our brand, our level of marketing, those can be leveled up over time. How well you speak to your client avatar, how clearly you communicate about your care plan, how many places you're on or how much you're spending in the places that you're spending for volume. And then of course your sales calls. So recycle those, go through those cyclically, level them up as a whole, and then one at a time. And over time, you will win more and more and more and be able to build the cash pay practice of your dreams. And this is the process we take with all of our practice owners in order to help them see the results they want for marketing and client acquisition.
I'll go out there and get some cash pay clients, guys.
Yeah,